Welcome to the Grief Files. My guest today is Keyla. Welcome. And
Hey.
Keyla is here to talk about a word that I love, but I always forget how to pronounce it. It's ennui. Ennui is spelled Ennui. And the definition, as I looked it up in the dictionary, is a feeling of listlessness or dissatisfaction arising from a lack of occupation or excitement. And Keyla and I have just very briefly kind of touched into this experience. Keyla, thank you for being here today. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you had mentioned to me that you have recently struck out on a journey on this very topic of this kind of sense that there's something more. And with this being the grief files, a lot of what we do here is, first of all, really explore how expansive the grief experience can be. I think there's a lot of things that are characterized as grief that we wouldn't realize that. We wouldn't think of that. Grief does not have to be bereavement. It doesn't have to be something obvious and externalized in our experience of loss. And I think that the grief that we're going to explore on the show today might be one of the most familiar forms of grief, but one that maybe isn't understood as such. And I'm really excited to kind of get into that and see what we discover inside. But maybe to get started, Keyla, would you just begin by telling us a little bit about kind of your life situation as it is right now, some of the different roles that you find yourself in, and then kind of take us in and bring us up close, if you would zoom in on this and talk to us a little bit in a textured way about this experience that you started to have, what that felt like, what were the circumstances surrounding that?
Okay, well, surrounding the circumstances, I would say like a couple of years ago, I was kind of in a space in my life where I pretty much just felt like there just have to be more to life. It was just like a routine, like I was just doing the same thing over and over. I would see progress and then I wouldn't. I would see progress and then I wouldn't. So I just got to a point where just something on the inside of me was just like, there's more to this.
Yeah.
Like there's more to life than that. And I would have thoughts like, oh my God, like if I die and if I'm on my deathbed, what am I going to say? You know?
Mm.
And I wasn't satisfied with that. I really wasn't. And I began like reading, that's when I began reading books really.
Yeah.
And I was reading this book called The Life-Driven Purpose by Rick Warren.
Mm.
And that book opened me up more to understanding that if you want to know who you are, you have to know where you come from.
Mm.
Same thing with like culture, or, if you live in Texas versus Louisiana, or like I was telling you, if your car breaks down, you're going to read the manual, right? To find out like what's wrong with it. So
Yeah.
that's why I was in the space of wanting to learn more about me, but
Yeah.
wanting to learn more about who I am and where I come from and where I'm going in that. And so my mind frame was just very like, I never used the term grief, but now that you use that term, that's definitely what I could
Yeah.
call it. I was just in the mind frame of like, I was sad. I was sad. I wasn't happy. I was depressed. Like there was a void in my heart. I just knew that I was made to be more than a mom. Of course, being a mom is like great. It's amazing. And
Yeah.
I was just like, but I know that life is more to me just being that one identity. And just like in that process and in me learning like who I am, where I come from, where I'm going, that pretty much helped me to get to the mind frame that I'm in today. And so I think that we as humans, I think we come into this world with a void in our heart and we try to fill it with friends,
Yeah.
going out, partying, drinking, whatever you do to fill
Yeah.
that void that you have. And I pretty much look at it as like an identity crisis. We don't know who we are, So I I look at it like if you don't know where you come from or who you are, then you're gonna fill that void up with anything. Anything is gonna, reach it.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's important to like even in grief, is to like encompass it because it's a part of life. And
Yeah.
just like any emotion is a part of life, like you have to sit in it. You have to learn from it. You have to think about it. You have to talk about it. You have to write about it. If you stay alone in that, you're basically going to come up with your own solution, and it
Yeah.
might not be right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you mention about that we're born with the void, and I agree with you. In fact, it turns out there's kind of a terminology for that. It's called ontological grief. And
Mhm.
it's the grief basically of the way that we experience life is like subjectively, right?
Can you
Through
give
through
me
this
one
set of
second?
eyes,
Can you
you
give
know?
me one second? I'm so sorry.
No,
Okay, I'm sorry.
all good, all good. So we come into this world in a state of separation, right? We
Yeah.
separate from our mothers at birth. We become aware that we are separate from others. And then I think as we go through life and we have, sort of these externalized experiences, losses, it kind of mounts and can build onto that. But I agree with you that it's there from the outset. Uh, Keyla, I'm curious. So you start feeling this problem, and you start thinking there must be more, and you're reading, and you're seeing that in order to understand who I am, and my void is about not knowing who I am, I need to understand where I come from. Um, Take us into that journey a little bit, if you will. Where did you start to look to see where you came from, and what did you find, and what did it tell you about yourself?
Okay, so at first I was looking, I guess you would say more into the universe, you would say. That would be the term of it. Or you could call it like Mother Nature,
Mhm,
whatever it is that you want to call it. I was looking to that more like spiritually,
mhm,
but on the terms of like the universe is presenting us with something.
mhm,
And I didn't find it there.
mhm.
That kind of like led me down like a deeper slope. Um,
Interesting. Like made it worse almost.
yeah, yeah, pretty much. For me, it made it worse. It didn't really help me with
Mhm,
anything. More along the lines of like, looking at my horoscope and, who I am in the stars and, who I am in, which is okay for people to do, of course. But for me, it didn't work for me.
yeah.
And I began to like, I was in this group with a few ladies, and when I found the book, it was recommended to me by another lady. And I was like, oh, well, the book talks about being on a 40-day journey.
Hmm.
So you have to read the book for 40 days and
Okay.
it's like a commitment. And the book is based on a 40-day journey, but it's based on biblical principles about what 40 days mean.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, I don't want to read that book by myself. I want to make a group. So I made a group of other women, and it was like
Yeah.
70 of us in that group.
Oh,
And
wow.
we read the book together. And like I bought it online, but I also had a paper copy.
Yeah.
And I would screenshot it and I would send it to the group every morning for 40 days. And
Wow.
that book is basically biblical principles. It just teaches about God, it teaches about Jesus. And as I kept reading that book, that kind of like led me in a different direction. So
Hmm.
then I started reading the Bible, and then I started reading other spiritual books,
Yeah.
and I started going to church, and then I met you in the park. so, so
Amazing.
what taught me about how I learned who I was and my identity, and how I got to the mind frame where I am today, where I know problems will exist,
Mhm.
but those problems won't be as hard if you are secure in who you are.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
those biblical principles are what taught me the things that helped me stand today and helped me like not fall in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
Because some days are hard, of course, but when I didn't know who I was, those days was even harder.
Yeah.
So that is what helped me in my life. And
Yeah.
that, yeah, pretty much.
So tell you mentioned about the significance of the 40 days. What is the significance of the 40 days? What does that symbolize?
So it symbolized like a biblical time frame that God does something.
Okay.
So 40 days Moses was on the mountain. 40 days Jesus fasted. So biblically speaking, is a period of time that God does something transformative in your life in the Bible.
Hmm.
Yeah, that the book was based on. You have to read it for 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more of like, just that discipline to not push through the book and like read it to where you can marinate in it, without, because if it's up to me, I'll just read the whole book in 3 days.
Right.
But I mean, like, how much am I going to get out of that if I read it in 3 days? So for me, it really helped me like take my time and read it and think about it, for those 40 days. So yeah, it wasn't like I didn't have like a light come down and
Yeah.
shine on me. It was in my heart. It was a
Yeah.
heart posture that I received from reading that. It let me know. That's actually where I got the term for if something's wrong with your car, you go to the manual. So
Yeah.
if something's wrong with you, just like a newborn baby, they're gonna go to their mom or dad. So as
Yeah.
a human, we would have to go to what created us,
Yeah.
besides our mom and our dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, is there a moment in this 40-day journey that kind of stands out for you in terms of something you can remember, like very specifically, like a Polaroid picture, just a moment in time where you can remember where you were, what the weather was, or some real sensory details?
There is.
Take us through that and go slow, like just like you were saying. It sounds like part of the magic of that 40 days was the way it slowed things down. And I think
Mhm.
we tend to sometimes rush through things and we miss important details. So take your time with this and walk us through, just in that very zoomed in, blow by blow way. Where were you? What were you noticing? What happened?
Can you hear me?
There you are. I think we
Okay.
froze for a minute, but we're
Yeah,
back.
definitely. Okay, yeah. So this is something I actually do remember. It plays a pivotal role like in my life. So I had the book, and there was this week in my life where everything was just like really hard, and I was just like I was overwhelmed in the home. Like I was overwhelmed at home with the kids.
Yeah.
And I was overwhelmed with just cleaning up so much. I know it sounds like a small thing, but at
No,
the
it
time
doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I was just so tired of cleaning up, and I was in just like this frame of mind where I was like, I need a break, right? I just need space. So I asked my kids, I said, do you guys want to go back home, like where we're from, or do you guys want to go to Florida?
Mhm.
And they were like, we want to go to Florida. So I was like, okay, get in the car. I literally packed like maybe pajamas and in the car. I was like, I'm gonna buy clothes when we get there. I was like, don't worry, just get a toothbrush, maybe get one outfit to change when we get to the hotel, get in the car.
Yeah.
Right before we got in the car, I was on the phone. I was looking for like a place to stay, found like a nice Airbnb to stay. We got in the car and we drove to Panama. And when we got there, we, went to the room, brought our clothes up, enjoyed ourselves. It was just really nice for us. I wasn't thinking about the home, wasn't thinking about getting things clean. None of those problems were on my mind because I just wanted to escape life, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I remember being on the beach. I remember sitting on the sand. I remember watching the kids playing in the water because the Panama beach is blue
Yeah.
versus the beaches we have.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
nice. I remember watching the kids play in the sand, and I remember that I had came to a point where I was like, I remember saying, God, I can't do this by myself. I just want to give I just want to give my life back to you. That's what I said in my heart. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant. Like I was just reading the book. And if I'm not mistaken, this was towards the end of the book, because at the end of the book, they had like a prayer, this is what you pray. And I felt that, I felt
Yeah.
that. I felt like this was right. I felt like this is the way for me. And something inside of me was like, girl, you can't do it by yourself. Like
Wow.
you can't do it by yourself. And I remember that moment very vividly, because I feel like that was the moment like my whole life shifted in a different direction.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't do this by myself. I really just want to give my life to you. And that was it. And I remember when we were on our way home, like we enjoyed our weekend. We enjoyed our weekend. It was amazing. We were on our way home, and my youngest son, was crying in the car.
Mhm.
And at this point in his life, he would cry in the car a lot.
Mhm.
It was like a thing that he do. So
Yep.
we were on the highway when we were on that way back, and I remember pulling over. And I remember I got out the car and I just grabbed the blanket and I just put it on my face and I would just scream, and I was just so stressed
Yeah.
out. So I
Yeah.
was just like, we just came from vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
There
you
we
can.
go. We're back. We froze for a minute. Can I just say, Keyla, I love the transparency with which
Yeah,
you're sharing this story, because as a fellow parent, that is real. That
that
is
is.
so real. Those meltdowns, and the triggers are small, but it is a long, long journey of a lot of mundane work, a lot of
Yeah,
thankless work, met with a lot of bad behavior.
yes.
The ins and the outs, and it's thankless, and you put aside a lot of your own needs and a lot of your own wants in the process of that. And I really appreciate your candor and sharing. Yeah, we were just leaving vacation and I was already through the roof. I'd already like
Mhm.
hit my limits, exceeded my limits, standing out the car screaming like a crazy woman. I hear you. That's where you left us before we had a
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
glitch. So I'll let you resume the story from there.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on what you said about triggers. There are underlining bigger problem. So that was like a small thing. I could have pulled over, gave him a hug, quiet him down, gave him something to drink, but it triggered me in such a. Am I back?
There you are. You're back. You're back.
Okay, I was saying that the trigger took me from 0 to 100. So when I look back, I can see that that was a abnormal reaction. Something was wrong deep inside of me.
Yeah.
I didn't have peace deep inside of me, and so like I was saying, I just put the pillow to my face and I just screamed, and I was just like, I want to throw the pillow in the pond and everything.
Yeah.
And then I just took my deep breath in, and I went back in the car. And we got back on the road and we drove back. And I don't know why though, that I don't know why that moment sticks out in my head, but it does. That moment has never.
Keyla, we lost you again for a minute, but we know it'll come back. It's been coming back. But while we're waiting for that to come back, what strikes me about this moment, and I think this is something that happens to us sometimes when we're on our spiritual journey.
Mhm.
You have this big moment, you have this breakthrough, you have this God moment where you go, I'm not going to do this by myself, and I'm going to set myself free by realizing I'm not going to try to do it by myself. And
Yeah.
then I think when we do that, we're just wired this way as people, right? We're path of least resistance, and our tendency sometimes is to be like, I had my breakthrough moment. I had my hallelujah, yes, God moment. I'm transcendent. I'm there. And then we get into the mundaneness of life and we're like, we're like losing it again. And then we're feeling our humanness. And I think we get disappointed in ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
we lose faith again because we go, oh my God, if that were a real experience, if I'd really experienced God, would I be losing my mind over my kids crying in the car? That kind of thing, right? And I think I think we're hard on ourselves, and I think we misunderstand sometimes
Mhm.
the spiritual journey, which is
Yeah,
not to say that we're not a mess and that we don't lose our shit. We do,
yeah, yeah.
and it's a journey.
Yes.
But
It's
anyway,
definitely up and down.
yeah, you were
Yes.
saying what it was about that. What was it about that moment, do you think? And do you know now when you look at it, do you understand what the trigger was and what the meaning of that moment was for you?
Um, like I don't, I'm still wondering, because I haven't been asked this before, really ever.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever really been interested in what happened to me. But just like the realness of it, like the authenticity of it, I was burnt out. I pulled over, I had to scream, and then and it was just like the reality of life, like the reality of being a single parent with multiple kids. And I didn't try to control the issue,
Yeah.
right? Like I didn't try to control it. I just felt what I felt. I
Mhm.
yelled what I yelled. I cried what I cried, and then I just got back up and went again. And
Yeah.
maybe that's what the moment taught me. Like I didn't pretend like it didn't happen. I didn't ignore it. I just like felt that
Yes.
emotion, and I owned that emotion, and then I released that emotion and I went about my day.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good in life to learn how to like I was talking about earlier, like sitting in that, not always rushing through life, rushing through a moment, rushing through the death of somebody, crying one day and you're at work the next day. Like really sit in that moment and cry, because we've been given the emotion to cry for a reason. It's not just there. Like,
That's right.
there's a Bible scripture that even says there's a time for everything, there's a time to cry and a time to laugh. So I think it's important that, as a parent, just if you need those moments in your life where you need to pull over in front of a pond in the middle of nowhere and get out of the car and put a pillow over your face and scream, you can do that. I would rather scream in a pillow than scream at them,
Yeah.
with what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
so
a big
beautifully
moment.
permissive to hear you say that. Like, as
Yeah,
it's really landing for me too. It's really wonderful to be reminded that it's okay,
yeah.
that we're
It's
human. It's okay to lose it and be overwhelmed and have to stop and just be overwhelmed sometimes.
yes, it's definitely okay to give yourself permission to not be okay. And I had to learn that, as a single parent, like it's okay to be human. It's okay to
Yeah.
be angry, just like it's okay to be great. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be great today. And
That's
so I
right.
just really had to give myself like permission to be a human being. And I'm not a robot.
That's
So
right.
being a mom, you can become a robot.
Absolutely. No, that's part of I think the numbing is the automation of the whole thing. But you know what else strikes me as I'm viewing this in my I don't know what you're driving. I'm seeing like a little minivan or a little SUV or something pulled
It
over
was
on the
a
side.
red, yeah, it was a red Jeep.
There you go. And I'm seeing you just hitting that place, and I'm hearing the kids sobbing in the back, and I'm seeing in my mind's eye, I'm seeing you come out of the car with that pillow and scream into that pillow and throwing it in. But the other
Yeah,
thing I'm seeing is I'm seeing those kiddos in that car taking this in, and what an incredible thing for you to model for them, actually. I think it runs contrary to a lot of what we think when we think about succeeding as parents. I think sometimes it seems like we need to always be put together, but it's
yes,
not real, and our kids are going to lose it. And to see to see you show up for yourself that way in that moment and take what you need and not take it out on them, but take the thing that you needed and let yourself be messy in that moment and then come
yeah,
back and pick up where
yeah,
you were. Uh, what a thing for them to have modeled for them at that young age. I think that's
yeah.
so beautiful and something to be so proud of.
I
Truly.
definitely agree because they're communicators,
Yeah.
because I learned that my son he's a screamer. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what he's a screamer. But men or boys are more they get more angry and then we'll get more emotional.
Yeah.
So that's just something, that he has to learn that growing up. And I teach him, when he gets like that, because instead of screaming he'll scream in the pillow. Actually, when I think about it, he'll literally get on the floor and roll around in the pillow
Yeah.
and scream. And I teach him, but when he starts screaming in people's face, I teach him. I say, hey, you don't have to scream to be heard. Like you can talk. You don't have to scream to be heard. So yeah, I didn't think about it, that way. Like it was something great for them to see me be a human. And I hear a lot of stories where people say, I've never seen my mom cry. I've never seen my dad cry. I don't
Me.
think I ever saw my mom cry until my brother passed away. Other
Wow.
than that, I never saw her cry. But raise your hand if you're a crying mama. I am. I'm gonna cry. Like I'm gonna cry. I will
Right here.
today.
Yeah, but I do. I think, and interestingly, I read a study. It's been a lot of years ago, and I can't remember. I think Time Magazine published a portion of the study, and it was interesting. It had to do with resiliency and outcomes for children coming from single parent households versus dual parent households. And what they found was that this particular kind of empathy factor was more present in the children of single parents. And what they attributed it to is they said, the children of single parents learn at an earlier age about the full scale humanity of their parent.
Yeah.
They're more likely to see that parent reach a limit, and they're more likely to be called upon to assist. And that what it showed kind of over the course of time was that there was a kind of resiliency present in those children, and also a kind of empathy
Okay.
that
Wow.
was across the board, measured higher in the children of a single parent household. And I'm also a single parent, and it's I think this is the thing about the topics that we discuss on this show and all the different facets of grief,
Hmm.
is that there are gifts in it. There are
Yeah.
equal and opposing, sort of commensurate gifts that come out of this pain. It is not for nothing. Our pain is
Yes.
energy. Our
Absolutely.
pain is fuel. And that energy, cooped up within us or misdirected inside of us or misdirected into the world, can be painful and destructive
Hmm.
and paralyzing, but channeled and transmuted into something else. There's
Yes.
so much power in it. Keyla, I wanted to mention something. I know we came today to talk about ennui, which this has been just really wonderful to explore, because I don't think it's the first thing that comes to people's minds when
Hmm.
they think of grief. Um, but I think it's really helpful framing to realize that that's what that is. But I
Hmm.
also, just heard you mention about, loss of a sibling. You lost a brother.
Yes, I did. Yeah, my brother passed away. He passed away in right before I graduated high school. So I graduated in 2010, and so he would have passed away 2009. Yeah,
Wow.
he was murdered. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I imagine, first of all, my God, I'm so very sorry for that experience. And
Thank you.
it, yeah, just want to give some space for that for a minute. What a, what a tremendous thing to have happen. And I imagine there's like compound grief in that. I had a schoolmate in college who had a sibling who was murdered as well. And what she had described to me was, she said, it's not just that my brother was gone, and it's not just that life as we knew it, and a sense of
Yeah.
safety or normalcy or privacy, was gone. She said, my parents were gone forever because of the way they were affected by the grief of the loss and the shock of the loss, and
Yeah.
also like in the pursuit of justice and things like that.
Mhm.
But then she went one step further and she said, but you know what else was lost? Was me, because I had to separate from myself, because I could not bear the guilt I felt for how angry I felt and how selfish I felt about the fact that I wanted us to move on from this situation of my brother's death. I wanted to
Mhm.
have my parents back, and I wanted to have my life back. And grief is so different, for each one of us, but it really struck me that there are some really complex forms of loss, and what you're describing, loss of a sibling to murder,
Yeah.
that strikes me as being a really complex loss. And um, I wonder if you would feel comfortable to just speak a little bit about what was surprising for you in
Mhm.
having that loss experience, and what you might want people to know about what that experience was for you and for your family.
So he was about 19. We grew up in Monahans, Texas. I don't know if you know that where that's at, but
I do.
can you see me on video?
Your video is a bit frozen, and I didn't want to derail us, but let's see if it might. I think maybe there's just a little bit of a slow internet connection.
Okay, that's fine. We'll keep going
You
though.
know what? Let me try one thing. I wonder if I can do a reset on my end. I'm going to try this. Let's just see. Hold on one moment. Let me bring you back. Just waiting for it to load here.
Okay.
And Keyla, I can hear you fine right now, I think. Can you still
Mhm.
hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So we've got audio. I think it's just the video part that's maybe slowed down. I don't know if it'll load up and come on or not. Let's see. Hmm.
If it doesn't, it's okay.
Yeah, I wish we could see your beautiful face. I'm glad we got to for part of this. Oh, it looks like it's gonna try. I think it's gonna keep trying to load, and hopefully you'll come through. But
Okay.
but feel free to proceed, and I'm glad we get the audio of you at least.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So I was in, I think I was in the ninth grade, and we were raised, like I said, in Monahans, Texas. So that's like way out there.
Yeah.
And we weren't raised around people of our ethnicity, right? And so when we came back to Louisiana, we came back to people of our ethnicity. And I was about 12 when we came back. So it was like a big culture shock. Like I never saw people who looked like me. I saw them, but it wasn't a lot, like, and I was just very shocked. I was like, I didn't even know like they look like this. I didn't even know they have this. And it was a shock because I was, raised around different kind of people.
Yeah.
And I think that is a bit of what happened to my brother because if it was a shock for me, it had to have been a shock for him. He was really good at football and sports, so he was like the best football player. He was like the fastest, and so like when we came here, it was very different. It was more competition, it was people faster and stuff like that. And he kind of went just the opposite direction. He went a different way in life. He began doing different things when we moved back here. And so um, about when we were about, I was about 15, maybe I was in the ninth grade, I believe, and he wasn't in school anymore. And he and my mom went out for the day, for the night. My mom went out for the night, and she gave me her car keys.
Yeah.
And she told me, she was like, don't give him my car keys because he always would take the car.
Oh no.
He would constantly take my mom's car, and it would be so funny because he would mess with her seat, and she would always have her seat a certain way, and he would always mess with the seat. So whenever she would get in the car, she would be like, "I know you took my car because you're different." So, and one night, a family member of mine actually came and picked him up,
Okay.
and they went to do things that weren't supposed to be done.
Yeah.
And when he did that, the person shot at him, and The person shot at him, and he ended up wrecking into like a building. It's like a sign. It was more like a brick sign, and how he passed away from the wound, the gunshot wound, and the wreck or whatever. And so yeah, I remember it pretty clearly. I remember like laying down, I was sleeping, and I remember my sister just opened the door and she was like, he's gone, like he's gone. And like it was unbelievable, really, because I really just I never experienced that of a family member before. Not as close as me and him. And it almost didn't even feel real. I think I always thought like, oh, he's just gonna come walking in the house one day, like
Yeah.
he's gonna come back to life in the next couple of years. Like I literally would think that.
Yeah.
But I definitely, understand how your friend felt, because I used to feel guilty about it because I would be like, oh, if I would have just gave him the car keys, maybe, because I remember that night he asked me for the car keys, and I said no.
Oof.
And I always kind of felt like, oh, if I would have just given him the car keys, maybe he wouldn't have went, try to do that, and that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And so I definitely can attest to feeling guilty, because her feelings are really valid. That's how she felt. She felt like she wanted to move on, and experience the grief, but not live in the grief. So I definitely understand that. And I had to tell myself like it's not your fault. You couldn't have controlled, that situation to go down like that. And so it was just, your whole family kind of like goes through their own separate emotions, and like we never really talked about it.
Oh
My
wow.
mom just really like disassociated. It was really hard for her.
Mm.
Um, she just like went into a different version of herself. She was more like it's hard to explain. She was very like one time she left for like 3 months. So she was going through it, and so that caused us, like me as a girl, as a young girl, that caused me having to be home with, mom's gone for 3 months. Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So that just changed the trajectory of like my whole life.
Of course.
Because I kind of felt like I would feel in my heart like, well, if we would have never moved back, that wouldn't have happened, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if we would have just stayed in Texas, like that he would still be alive.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like just navigating that, I would go through stages of like, just crying about it, and just thinking like, what if he was alive right now, he would be with my kids and my boys and things like that,
Yeah.
that you missed out on. And yeah, it just kind of changed everybody's life. And the way your life can go one way one moment, and then a tragedy happened and your life go a totally different way.
Yeah.
So not only did my mom lose her son, but her mother also died around the same time. So
Mm.
it was very traumatic. And I don't really feel like we like sat in that grief. I feel like everybody just moved on in their own way, just without talking about it with each other and things like that. But yeah, it's a very traumatic event, like.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievably traumatic. I'm curious, Keyla, you mentioned that y'all didn't really sit in the grief. You didn't really discuss it. Everyone just kind of like groped their way in the darkness on their own, found their way through. Um, and it's been obviously many years now. Have you all ever come back and had any discussions? And if not, do you have a wish that some kind of conversation could be had?
We may have spoken about it like very minimal, but
Mm.
it wasn't never like a when I picture talking about something like this, I picture like a therapy session almost, like, we're gonna talk for a minute, we're gonna go on for a couple of hours. That never happened. And what was the question you asked? If
Well, I was curious if you have if you could have a wish in this, if there's something that you wish could occur for your family in terms of, or for yourself in terms of a conversation, something that would be healing
I
regarding
think,
this.
yeah, I could definitely say that I wish I knew like the depths of how everyone really felt about it.
Yeah.
I never really knew how anyone really felt about it. I pretty much knew how I felt about it. I learned like through the years how my older sister felt about it, but I just really wish that I knew how I wish I knew more of how my mom felt about it in a sense of words. And not just, just always hard for me because I lost somebody, but in a sense of like your specific words, like how do you feel? Like what can we do as the rest of your kids to bring you back to life?
Yeah.
So I definitely wish that we could do that, that way she doesn't have to carry that grief with her for the rest of her life. Because, life happens to us, but we don't have to like pick up that burden and carry it for the rest of our life and never move on, because
Yeah.
I know there's some families who have traumatic events and they literally say stay stuck in that year at that time frame at that age of the child, and they just pursue justice and they never move on with their life.
That's right. Yeah.
So I definitely would do that. I would ask my mom more questions, to try to get a
Yeah.
sense of what she really, really is feeling in her heart. Because I know it's still hard for her at this time too.
Yeah. Where is your mom today, and what is your relationship like with her at this point in time?
My mom lives about 2 hours away from here,
Okay.
and we have a relationship, but it's not anything. It's not the best.
Mhm.
It's not the best relationship, but it's a relationship.
Yeah. I'm
It's not
just
like what I
reminded.
picture
What
what I
was that?
picture. I was gonna say it's not like if I could have like a dream relationship, with my mom, like a little girl, it's like
Yeah.
not, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I would
absolutely.
like, I would want the relationship that I have with my daughter to been what I had,
Mm.
So
That's pretty beautiful though that you were able to turn that wish and that you created that kind of relationship with your own daughter. That's
yeah,
really something. I'm struck by something, Keyla, and maybe we'll just touch on this. And you have shared so deeply and so profoundly, and I really appreciate it. There's been so many amazing insights and takeaways in this conversation. But I'm reminded of where we started out when you were talking about first exploring this space of there's this void in me and I need to understand where I came from. And you were talking, of course, more broadly than just your parents, but your creator.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
but but it occurs to me that it kind of comes around, full circle to that. And
yeah, definitely.
yeah, I wonder if you have any kind of just reflections on that. It doesn't have to be in anything in terms of a resolution, but just your musings, I guess, with that question of where you've come from. You talk about kind of this rupturing experience in your family and that there's a wish. Um, any kind of final thoughts on that piece of it?
Um, well, I think that what I learned was that what I learned when learning about like my creator, when learning about God, what I learned was that all those like traumatic events and experiences that we have in life, they do reflect our relationship with him, and it can be detrimental to our relationship with him, or we can work through it to make those things work out, better for us.
Yeah.
um so just knowing that now, I didn't know that a couple years ago. I didn't know like my when you say where I come from, on like on a worldly view, I definitely like don't know my history past my grandmother, right?
Yeah.
But what calmed my spirit with that was that knowing like, hey, no matter what earth says, like no matter what race says, ethnicity says.
Yeah.
You come from me, you come from God, and then you come to heaven. So, even though some people can go back 10 generations, I can't do that. That's a wish I always wish I had. I wish I could go back 10 generations to
Yeah.
my grandmother's mother and her mother's mother, but I don't have that.
Yeah.
But just knowing that it's okay that I don't have that. I know the depths of where I come from, and I know where I'm going in the end. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very open-ended question, but yes, I mean that really that's a continuation of the journey that you're on. And what I'm struck by is how you went in search and you leaned into that uncomfortable place and you started asking questions,
Yes.
reading and looking for something. And it seems that you are on a journey and you are successfully unlocking for yourself
Yes.
these areas that hurt, these areas of confusion and
Yeah,
stuckness. And
absolutely.
you are building a new model for
Yes, that's how I
family living
feel.
again. You're
That's
healing.
exactly how I feel. Could I read something to you?
Please do.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm gonna read this to you. This is something that I wrote. Let me find it really quick.
Sure.
It's not
Take your
in the
time.
book. Okay. Because what you said makes sense about, like how I've been feeling lately. And I'm gonna read this to you guys. Okay. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Um, it's a lot. Not a lot.
That's okay. That's
Okay.
okay. This is a space for holding a lot. So
Okay. Cool.
go for it. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Uh, I think it's important to meet ourselves where we are at. I have multiple journals, but only one of them is completely filled.
Mm.
I have notes everywhere, and I have nothing in a consistent place. And so, mental health for me is beginning to be about definitely giving myself a space to be human, not just a mom, just to be great, but also to be horrible, to laugh, but maybe cry even more this season of life. Be serious, but also childish because I really want to laugh loud today, right? Learning to be unapologetically human first is very important. And when you find out who you are and what you like and what you don't like, once you have created necessary boundaries to move forward in life, in relationships, whether it's friends or spouse, when you find that girl that has been buried under the pain of life and others' opinions, I need you to stop, breathe, and give that girl the biggest hug ever because she is finally learning how to break down systems and do life her way. In the words of Lisa Turkis, I open my front door and cross my old threshold with new possibilities to be me, healthy, whole, and fully alive. For me, it's more like this. I take steps in the small waves, passing the shallow parts, the surface level, what I can see with my own eyes, past the comfortable parts of the water for most people, and I take a step into the deep. I don't panic, I don't drown. I also allow myself to be immersed into the depths of his love. I arise out of the deep, free to be who I am, confident to become who I will, because the deep is now safe for me, healthy, whole, and fully alive. Looking back, I would give this girl a hug 4 years ago and tell her, hey, babe, cry all the tears you need, stomp and scream, but just know you didn't give up. You persevered, even when you thought you couldn't. Speak to her from your future self and say, you are an overcomer. I truly believe that this is the way the Father deals with us, from future to present, and whisper those words of resilience in our ears, even when we can't fully see it ourselves. He says, you will make it, and that is why you can trust Him. That is why I can now trust myself and believe in myself, because I watched her make it. That's it.
Oh my God. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. You made me cry. I love that. I
Think
love
I
that.
really I was sitting at the beach one day and I enjoy writing. So
Yeah.
sometimes I become like a poet.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely poetry. Um, on that note of just what you're sharing into the world, Keyla, before I stop the recording, is there a way that our listeners could reach out to you, either maybe through your socials or through your email or something? If somebody listening to this either wanted to share a comment with you or seek a connection, is there a way they could get in touch?
Yes, they can follow me on Instagram. So my Instagram is going to be my name, Keyla Welcome _ And on my Instagram, there is a website that's attached to it because I'm a web developer and I'm still learning. So I actually was gonna like share my journey. So there's a website on there, and on the website, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a way you can email me,
I love
or
it.
you can message me on Instagram too. That's you could do that too.
Amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was an amazing conversation. And I that image of you throwing that pillow in the pond is going to stay with me a long time in like a really triumphant way. Thank you so much for your candor in everything you shared today. It was really an amazing gift to hear your story. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I didn't know what I was going to say, and I didn't expect to read that. But sometimes we write. Sometimes we go through stuff for other people. You
That's
know.
the whole idea of this show. It really is to try to arrive without, break the mold, get out of what we plan to say. Let's improv this a little bit so that we can discover something more true for ourselves, maybe
Yeah.
in the process too. So I so appreciate that share.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
All right, darling.